Hello everyone and welcome to Speaker Talk Radio. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to Sarah Jones. Sarah, an experienced career, life and executive coach, has worked with individuals, corporate professionals and a wide variety of people to help them realise their highest potential. Sounds good, let's find out more. Hello Sarah, welcome and thank you for coming on to Speaker Talk Radio.
Pleasure to be here, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You asked on your website, are you ready to start the next chapter of your career? How do people know when they're ready to start the next chapter of their career? Is it a feeling of dissatisfaction only?
It's really interesting actually. There's a whole myriad of symptoms, and actually for many of us it can be quite a difficult thing, particularly if you've been successful in your career, to realise actually I think what I've been doing isn't working and I'm dissatisfied. Many clients phone because there's been this kind of gnawing, building feeling inside of them that's been building and building and they can't ignore it anymore. And it's like, oh, I think I need to admit to myself that this isn't what I want to do. And then some people phone really in a state of overwhelm, as in I just cannot continue doing what I've been doing. But typically, it's been like, I liken it to a rumbling tummy. So when we have a rumbling tummy, we feel a bit hungry, but we might think, do you know what, that's okay, I can ignore it for a bit. But that rumbling tummy then eventually develops into real hunger pangs that you can't ignore. And typically it's been a growing feeling, or people have tried a few tweaks that haven't worked, or they're not getting the results or recognition that they want from their career, which means that they have to kind of revisit those feelings that have been buried. So, for example, many of us may have spent time raising kids or not had the luxury of time of really thinking about their career, but that feeling's been building and building and building. Or perhaps they've had redundancy and it's forced them to really think about their career. So very often it's like a nagging weight or a gut feeling that you can't put off anymore.
It's a bit like an itch, isn't it? There's a little itch that starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's right. And it's like sometimes, you know, when we've got something wrong with us, some of us might put off going to the doctor.
Yeah.
It's maybe a bit like that as well, and you only deal with it when it gets really painful. And it manifests itself in a whole host of ways. Everybody's different. You know, some people will find that they've got actually a physical body pain that doesn't go away. That's stress very often. Or many of my clients report that, you know what, I'm snapping at my kids, I'm snapping at my partner.
Yeah.
Myriad of symptoms, not being able to sleep, or that dreaded Monday morning feeling that we sometimes experience, I'm sure.
Part of your coaching involves helping your clients find out the special ingredients that make them them. I like that. How? Can you give us an idea?
Yeah, certainly. I think, as I mentioned before, sometimes we can spend years in a career that doesn't really suit us. Maybe we've just fallen into our career or done what our parents have done or what somebody else has told us to do, or we're fighting to leave a career because we've invested in our education or we've created a whole identity around that role or job title. But then we can sort of shift and we, you know, maybe have those pains that we've just talked about.
Sure.
But really, most human beings are happy when we're working towards a purpose, what makes us us. And it doesn't have to be anything grand or amazing. It can just be something around what is important to you in life. So, for example, as a coach, what really motivates me is helping people, because I know that I've benefited from coaching, and for me, the driving force is really to sort of make the best of your life and grab life with both hands. But really, what sometimes we need to do, particularly if we've been pretending we've been happy for a while, is look at our own internal, what I call our sat-nav. And those are our values. What makes you the person that you are? What leads you to take the decisions that you take and to not take other decisions? So we examine your core values, and that could be around, you know, working in a team, or I want to work in a company with lots of direction, or freedom is important to me, so setting up my own business is going to be important to me. So we look at those values. They're like one individual words, and there's lots of exercises we do around those to identify those ingredients and then align those to say, well, how can we bring more of those values into your career? And then I also do psychometric profiling as well, so that helps.
Interesting. It's very interesting. I always like psychology. You have 4 coaching packages. Let's go through them, shall we? And you can tell me about them. So let's go through the first one. 1-to-1 coaching, reboot in 3 months or reinvent in 6. So what's all that about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually conduct these face-to-face or phone, Skype or Zoom. And this is really more of a gradual process where we look at, your career at the moment. We really get to the root of who you are as a person and what you want from your career in terms of your overall life. And then we go through what's holding you back, and then from there we set a plan of action. Now, everybody's different. So some clients will want to work really, really quickly through this and make a huge amount of progress. For some people, it might take a bit more of that discovery work to get to who they are and how to align that to their career. So it's very sort of individual approach, and you can do it in 3 months or 6 months, and then after that you might just need some momentum sessions to keep you going. So it's more of that phased approach.
Right. I could have done with you about 20 years ago. The second one, the second one, the VIP coaching days. They're designed with ambitious high flyers in mind for a fast track approach to success. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so very often, when people phone me, I get an idea for how fast they want to work, how they want to work. But sometimes what happens is that I get clients that phone me up and I can tell by their tone of voice, their language, that actually they've gone into the panic zone. They're overwhelmed. And actually sometimes the best thing that I can do with them is spend a day or 2 half days to allow them to offload all of this stuff that's been building up and really start on a more fast track approach to quell the panic and sort of take some positive steps forward to sort of get over the panic and set the wheels in motion.
The third one, the VIP career reinvention group coaching. Learn within a like-minded community with me at the helm. I like that.
So this is more around having a community of people that you can draw on. And what happens is that I usually run a webinar to introduce the program, and it's a 10-weekly program. Every week we have a webinar. I record that and I place that into a private Facebook group. And within that Facebook group, people share their experiences, you ask questions, and I'm always on hand to answer those individual questions and make sure I'm providing the right content to you. I include interviews with people that I've spoken to before that have been career changers, successful career changers, and it's really a group coaching environment so you can draw on a community to help you make the changes that you want to.
Number 4 is deal with it now. Emergency coaching. I love that, emergency coaching. To deal with things immediately. I love the title of that one. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, thanks. So sometimes, with my regular clients, when you're working with me on a one-to-one basis, you'll always have the opportunity to connect with me in between sessions, because sometimes things pop up and it's like, I need to deal with this now.
Yeah.
But actually, if you just want a taster of coaching, or perhaps there's just one issue that you think, I need to solve this now, that's what that Deal With It Now session is for. So you can just deal with it, sort it out straight away.
You've received some wonderful testimonials, including coaching with Sarah was a great experience. She has a great ability to ask the right questions, which helped me to uncover hidden issues and limited beliefs which I was holding. And my experience with Sarah has been incredible from start to finish. She's an intuitive and supportive coach, someone who really gets you where you need to be. She was able to home in on exactly what makes me tick. Good testimonials, Sarah.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing that we hold on to beliefs that stand in our way and we don't even realise they're beliefs? We just think that's how it is. Do you find a high percentage of your clients suffer with limiting beliefs that hold them back?
Yeah, absolutely. Along the way, there will always be, and that's part of this process that I talk about, the regroup. I call it like the rebooting. It's like rebooting the computer, doing the Control-Alt-Delete on the computer.
Yeah.
We all have limiting beliefs, all of us. And I liken it to, it's a bit like a game of whack-a-mole. You get rid of one and then something else pops up. When we change our lives, when we change our lives or we want to do something different, our ego wants to keep us safe. It's like, oh, we're changing, I'm not sure I like this, and I want to keep you safe. So I'm going to feed you all these negative phrases that are going to keep you where they are. Now, these are beliefs that somebody might have said something to us once when we were younger, and we've taken that on board, and we believe that to be true. But it's like wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. Somewhere we know that that's holding us back. So, for example, many people will say, well, you know, I feel like I'm a bit old to make this change, or I don't feel I'm clever enough to be a writer. And those are, and I really interrogate those to say, well, how true is it? Where did that come from? And then we can reframe them and rewire the computer, i.e. our brain, to understand that just because somebody said it once, or you've been saying it to yourself, doesn't make it true. And when we can rewire that and make it into a much more affirming, positive script, then we can really start to make progress towards our goals.
It's breaking them down, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we all have them.
Oh,
We all
God.
have them.
Yeah, God, don't we just?
Yeah.
What started you on the road to becoming a coach and speaker? Was there a defining moment?
Yes, absolutely. When I was in my, long time ago now, but in my early 20s, and I don't think coaching, we didn't really know what coaching was at that point. And I was struggling in a certain area of my life, and I kept thinking, do you know what? I just keep getting the same results in my life. And I thought, well, it can't be everybody else. It must be something that I'm doing. And a friend of mine said, well, why don't you speak to my friend who's a coach? And honestly, it was like Thunderbolt City, in terms of, I think I've just stolen that phrase from a film somewhere. But anyway, it was a light bulb moment. It completely rewired my thinking in terms of, oh my goodness, it's not about the outside world. It's about how I show up, how I see the world, how I'm sort of showing up. And it was just such a massive shift. And it's like, oh my goodness, it opened this Pandora's box of self-discovery, self-development that continues today. And it had such a massive impact in my life. I thought, you know what? It took me a long time to get there, but I realised this is something I want to do. And people kept saying to me, do you know what, Sarah, you should be a coach, you should be a coach. But I ignored them. And it took my own coach to work through the process again and say, yeah, this sounds like it could be something really good for you. So that's how it came about and how I retrained.
I can hear that you're obviously a good coach. It comes out of the way you talk and in your voice.
Oh, thank you.
Now let's talk about your book, From Vulnerable to Invincible.
Yeah.
Why From Vulnerable to Invincible? Tell me about the title.
Yeah, so it really came from some personal experiences that I had where at times I felt fragile myself or felt like running away from a situation, and I realised it was because I felt somewhat exposed, I felt vulnerable, I wasn't ready to face my fears. And when we don't do that, when we don't step into those fears, it can really hold us back.
Yeah.
And it was something that was bubbling away in my mind for ages, and I thought I really must write a book on this one day. And it's really about identifying and recognising that vulnerability can be turned into a strength, because it holds the key to a lot of information about what's holding us back.
Yeah.
And then when you can step into it and own it, because sometimes, that phrase, what we resist persists.
Yeah.
But when we step into our fears and we own them and kind of go, okay, well, where has this come from? What's this all about? Is it working, me running away all the time? Well, probably not. Then we can start to deal with it and reframe our life, our thinking, our mindset. And I remember in the past, in a certain area of my life, where my feet would literally burn because I felt like running away. So bizarre. And I thought, this is really, really bizarre. So I used that as a basis. When my feet were burning, I thought, yeah, I really need to look into this, and this is where the book came from.
Your book blurb says, do you want to live a more fulfilling life, one that's open to opportunity and improved personal and business relationships? I say, who doesn't?
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes on to say, Sarah Jones lets you in on the tips, tricks and tools that she uses daily in her coaching business. Can you share a couple of tips and tricks without giving away too much, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of tips. We've talked about beliefs before. That's something that's very common when I'm working with people. So what I recommend is if you're hearing that negative chatter and that phrase or that feeling is coming up a lot for you, I recommend keeping a log at least for a couple of weeks about, what are these phrases that are coming up, and then really questioning and coaching yourself to say, well, hang on a minute, how true is this? What evidence do I have? And then changing the script into a more positive one, writing down some new affirming and positive statements, writing them out several times each day, and saying them to yourself, ideally looking in the mirror, which can be quite challenging for a lot of people. It's a bit like going to the gym. You hear of these bikini diets where it's like, you can have this beach body in 2 weeks' time. No, it's actually about consistent action. So as much as we go to the gym for our bodies, if we want to make improvements, then we need to do the same for our mind and our thinking patterns. So that works really, really well, keeping that log. And once you see it in front of you, written down, it activates a different part of your brain. That activates creativity, motivation. You can start writing new statements. And then the other piece that sometimes I think really works well, and it's been written about a lot, is mindfulness. And just being in the moment, because sometimes our thoughts run away like a freight train.
Oh, yeah.
So we stop, we pause, and then we make a conscious decision about, okay, so maybe that first part of my day didn't go as well as I wanted. Perhaps my thoughts were running away with me. And making a deliberate intention and goal to say, what are the next segments in my day? And how do I want those segments to go? How do I want to feel? What do I want to do? It sort of stops things sort of snowballing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you're talking about a mirror work, because I remember doing that a long time ago. I remember reading Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, and she talks about doing the positive affirmations in front of a mirror. And this was back in the 90s, and I looked and I started looking in the mirror, and I'm trying to do these positive affirmations. I didn't know whether to laugh or just go bright red because I felt so stupid.
I know. Sometimes it's just about persisting with it. Sometimes I get people to record them on their iPhone, or sometimes people say to me, well, can you record them for me? Because sometimes some people, there's a bit of resistance there.
Yeah.
And when they hear it from themselves, it's like, no, I don't believe it. But sometimes when somebody else says it, that can help to ease you into that process.
Very much so, very much so. I love the title of one of your chapters, What Does Authenticity Look Like? I, of course, have to ask, what does authenticity have to do with career coaching?
Yeah, so really it goes back to what I was talking about before, about our values and what makes us tick. And I mentioned that sometimes we come barreling out of school or university and we still don't have a clue about what we want to do. And we fall into something. Life takes over, maybe we have kids and life just rolls along. But I've met a lot of people who are, even in their 40s saying, do you know what, I don't ever think I've really enjoyed what I do. It doesn't fuel our purpose.
Yes.
In terms of what's important to us as a person. What do you want to, what's your goal in life? What's your overall big picture? And actually, not shoehorning yourself into a career that somebody else thinks you should be doing or you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Really something that aligns to who you are as a person. So if you're somebody that likes, as I mentioned before, a lot of freedom, perhaps being self-employed or a freelancer will work for you.
Yeah.
If you're somebody that wants to work on your own, perhaps another kind of career will work for you. It's really about understanding yourself and owning who you are and stepping into a career that suits you.
You were recently asked by the Daily Express to comment on body language and what it means for leaders as part of an article on Brexit. How important is body language? Is it just another trend, or is it something very important that we need to worry about?
Yeah, it's amazing actually. It's been studied for years and years and years. It's extremely important because studies have shown that I think we have about 20 seconds to make an impression on someone.
Yeah.
So it's hugely important, and the majority of how people perceive us and interpret what we're saying is actually through our body language. So when we can sometimes match other people's body language, it helps to form connections, it helps to form relationships, it adds impact to what we are saying through gestures, movements, posture, expressions. Can you imagine sitting in front of somebody who was saying, yes, I'm really happy, but they were shaking their head, you would automatically realise that's probably not true. We've seen things on television where somebody is saying, oh, yes, that's true, and shaking their head, like maybe a politician, and you sort of automatically look at it and think there's a disconnect there, there's a disconnect,
Exactly. One of your blog posts is titled, How to Find What You Love to Do. Ah, good post. How do we find out what we love to do? And more importantly, is what we love to do able to bring in enough money to pay a decent living? It seems to me, having spoken to so many people over the years, that the two can be mutually exclusive.
They can be if you decide they want to be. Now, there's no getting away from the fact that as human beings, we like to and we need to have a foundation of security, shelter, stability. That foundation needs to be in place. So trying to think about your ideal career if you're struggling to pay the bills, then you might need to take a different approach, but it doesn't mean you can't do it or start thinking about it. And I never recommend, unless somebody has that structure behind them, to say, well, just ditch everything and go for it, unless somebody really wants to do it. Sometimes it takes a bit of time to phase that plan to ensure that you're comfortable with the pace of change. But I know plenty of people that are combining careers, so maybe doing a portfolio career and doing what they love and earning a really good living from it. And I believe that actually if you're more motivated about what you want to do, you're more likely to succeed because you kind of bring an energy to what you do, and you're much more motivated to push on through those goals and actually have that resilience and persistence that we read about a lot when you're trying to do something different. And actually that's where a coach or mentor can really help you, because sometimes we get so stuck in our own situation that we can't see the wood for the trees. But somebody helping you, they'll identify things that you've not thought about, ways to go about it that you've not thought about, and thinking outside of the box to find new avenues to what you love to do, because we just can't always see what's in front of us.
No, very much so. Lastly, I want to talk about identifying unhappiness. You say we will work on average more than 90,000 hours in our lifetime. That's a lot of hours. That's a long time to be unhappy. True, but maybe you can give listeners just one way to identify unhappiness before we wrap up your interview.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a really obvious one. If somebody says or asks you, do you love your job? Do you love what you do? Immediately, what's your reaction?
Yes.
What's the reaction? And if you're saying, no, then that's an immediate sign, of there's that sinking feeling.
Yeah.
That's an immediate sign you can look at. And as I mentioned, there's loads of other symptoms. We talked about stress, frustration, feeling resentful. I think, when you're busy at work, but you're doing something where you're on purpose and you're enjoying it, you don't mind being busy.
Yes.
Because it's like a good pressure, if I can say that.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling resentful, that's a sign that you're not really doing stuff that you're enjoying. So, yeah, there's a couple of tips there.
Where can listeners find out more about your coaching, speaking, and of course your book, Vulnerable to Invincible?
Yeah, sure. Well, you can find me at www.sarah-j.com. So that's sarah-j.com. And on there's loads of stuff. There's blogs, information about my social media. So yeah, absolutely. Head on over there and connect with me.
Wonderful. All right, well, thank you, Sarah. That was really interesting. Please come back on Speaker Talk Radio. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Speaker Talk Radio. Let the world hear what you have to say. Thanks very much, Sarah.